and if you will, sit at the table with them in these key discussions that are taking place to make sure that their issues are heard and understood.
To address the issues that we're seeing on the river system with locks and dams, I'm sure it takes a lot of money, right? I'm going to take a stab that we can make a connection to those tours that you first did.
Mm-hmm.
We can now go to those 25,000 people and use them as resources to help us in advocating for funding. So let's talk about where we're at with funding, where
Sure.
some of the projects sit, and how much more support do we need to continue to have?
Sure. Well, before we get to that, we were so through that process of education, we finally got a critical mass of support in working with Congress. That in 2007 they passed the Water Resources Development Act, which, in essence, it includes anything to do with water, whether it's municipalities or our locks and dams, levees, and anything related to water. So our focus from the get-go and continues to be this day, the bottleneck that is on our river system is locks 20 through 25 on the Mississippi and Peoria and LaGrange on the Illinois. So in 2007, the Water Resources Development Act was approved, which included all 7 locks for authorization. And we started jumping up and down and thinking, hey, we finally got that. But we quickly realized that authorization only means you're in the queue to receive funding. You got to go out and find funding. So fast forward to your question about where we're at, it took us up until fiscal year 2021 before we actually got meaningful funding enough to start our first lock. Wow. So take you back, we started in 1995 with education. In 2021, we finally got our funding for our first lock of $732 million, which we were quite shocked. It wasn't just a portion of funding. That amount of money that was appropriated was supposed to complete that lock from start to finish.
Is it going to get there?
Yeah. Well, that's another good question.
That's a question everybody wants to know, right?
Yeah. With it seems like with the issue, there's always, and I've learned this over time. I don't get near as excited as I did or climb so high on my bucket. I do rejoice little wins, but realize that there's always another shoe that could drop. And of course, getting our first funded lock is no different. Recently, we heard that that funding that was approved in FY 2021 is going to be greatly below the total cost of what that project is actually going to be, almost double. So now we're faced with looking at, well, how are we going to make up for that shortfall without shorting ourselves in other areas of other ongoing projects? So within WRDA 2024, that's still pending, we've had great support from our Illinois delegation in asking for all that funding came from the IIJA infrastructure package in fiscal year 21. What our ask is in WRDA is that all that funding remain 100% federally funded. So, even though 732 is not going to be enough to do that project, we don't want to see, the Corps robbing, other line items to make up the shortfall, which, like I said, they're behind on work anyway. So we don't want to throw things down. It was Congress's intent anyway to fund that fully.
Jim, I think it's obvious that we could sit here and talk about this all day. It's such an important issue to not only the Illinois farmer, but the entire industry of Illinois, and what those waterways do in the transportation system. We've probably just barely scratched some of the surfaces of the day-to-day workings and dealings that you have with it. We appreciate the insight on that. But I do want to switch gears a little bit. I think it would be fair to say, after what you've shared with us, without Illinois corn, some of the work that has been done on the river transportation systems might not have happened. And Illinois corn is not going to happen without its members, right? Illinois Corn Growers Association is exactly as it labels. It is an association. It's member driven. You alluded to the fact that there could be an 8 to 10 cent bushel or 8 to 10 cents per bushel cost of the deterioration of the river system. So the membership has a dues to it, but I would see that those dollars could be quickly replaced by improved infrastructure. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of being a member, how those dollars are utilized, and what those dollars give you the ability to do.
So yeah, excited to do that, and that has been very key for us getting to where we are today. And I'm not ashamed to say that if it hadn't been for Illinois Corn and the work that our current board and our past boards have invested in resources in things, and our members, educating our members and then engaging them when the time was right, we wouldn't be where we are today. There's that old cliche that if you're not at the table, you're going to end up being the meal. And I always thought that was funny when I first started, as to, oh yeah, right. Hey, it's true. I've sat in many meetings. I've sent many board members and other representatives to key meetings as it relates to our issues, and you would be amazed. The general producer out there would be amazed at what subjects and who's sitting around the table, and they're not always friendly. And if you're not there to tell your side of the story, you become the meal. I mean, it's absolutely true, and we're finding that out more and more every day. So our members, though they may not be able to be directly involved through their membership dues, they enable others on their behalf to represent them, and if you will, sit at the table with them in these key discussions that are taking place to make sure that their issues are heard and understood.
All right, I think that's great. I think you really brought that together as to how much work the staff here at Illinois Corn is doing, and what those memberships do for them. And I think it's also important to know that as a member, there are ways to get involved, and they can continue to look for those paths as well. Jim, thanks for your time today. Been really insightful. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we kind of wrap up?
Just the fact to reemphasize that it is so important that you engage and take interest in what you do. It doesn't take a lot to make a huge difference. Making a phone call, writing a quick letter, and if you don't even have that much time, like I said, being a member of the association and empowering other leaders on your behalf to represent you is so key.
Well, thanks for the things that you do for Illinois Corn as well, and been a great opportunity to get to know a little bit more about that.